Grassroots is brought to you by Work It, meeting the needs of entrepreneurs in Stillwater since 2017. Welcome to Grassroots, a podcast series for growing civic engagement through conversation. I'm Chris Peters.
And I'm Michelle Charles, and we're your hosts for this series.
So Michelle, why are we doing this?
Well, Chris, we believe that when it comes to public life, people tend to talk at each other or about each other way more than they talk to each other. And we wanted to create a place that encourages more meaningful conversations.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm a little tired of soundbite politics.
I think we all are. So for the races we're talking about in this series, Election Day is February 8th. Early voting will begin February 3rd. On this ballot, voters in Stillwater are going to be asked to choose the next mayor and to decide a couple of propositions. One that would increase a dedicated sales tax for transportation, and one that would increase the city's visitor tax.
To kick off this series, we have interviews with Marc Trotter and Will Joyce, candidates for Mayor of Stillwater. Each interview will be split into 3 episodes, where we get to know the candidates as humans, learn about their interests, how they spend their free time, and hear why they want to serve their community. Each part will be released simultaneously, so be sure to listen to each candidate's episode.
In part 1, we get to know mayoral candidate Marc Trotter, learn about his life growing up in Stillwater, and hear some of his adventures in beekeeping. Hi, I'm Michelle Charles with Studio Stillwater. I'm here with my partner, Chris Peters, and we are doing the first installment of our Grassroots, a podcast to grow civic engagement series for the Stillwater mayoral election. We're here this morning with candidate Marc Trotter. Hi, Marc.
Hey, Michelle. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm well.
Hey, Chris. How are you today?
I'm good. It's cold this morning.
It is
Oh,
really
my
cold.
goodness.
It is really cold.
But I hear it's going to be like in the 60s tomorrow, so we'll be back to being warm.
I thought that was going to be today. So when I walked out and it was 15 degrees with my dog, I was like, oh, okay, that's, I guess that's coming later.
Yep, a little bit later.
Whoops.
Just kind of layer for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah. So the purpose of this is to get to know the candidates as human beings.
Yeah.
And then also to understand, why they want to do this kind of crazy thing, really.
Yeah.
Because definitely politics, especially local politics, we all know these are not big money jobs. I mean, if you're lucky, you get a sandwich and, a few dollars for coming to the meetings.
A high five, maybe.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Maybe. And a lot of hate mail.
That's right. It's quite a rush.
It really is. It really is. It's so exciting. It's almost as exciting as being a journalist.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
You get pizza on election night and some hate mail.
That's right.
But
Comes with the
anyway,
territory.
it does. It does. But anyway, just to get to know you a little bit and, why you want to do this and, what's important to you. And, one of the reasons we do it this way is because a lot of the forums, and I've covered many, many forums over the years, they'll kind of look at the candidates and they're sitting up there on, at a desk or at a horseshoe, in the city council chamber. And, it's like, okay, tell us who you are. You have 90 seconds, go. And that's really tough to do.
Yeah, so now you're going to be like, tell us who you are, but you've got, 20, 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Maybe more.
It's really hard to just, define anyone in 90 seconds. Mm-hmm. It's hard to define anyone in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you can get a better idea.
Sure. Yeah. Hopefully a good one.
Okay. So, Marc, let's start with the beginning.
Okay.
Just basically tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? How'd you get to Stillwater?
Well, I was born here. So I'm actually born and raised in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. I'm 29 years old, and I've lived here 28 out of the 29 years I've lived.
That first question now is what about that 1 year? Where did you escape to for 1 year?
So right out of high school, I went to this Christian internship in really close to Tyler, Texas, about I think 30 minutes to an hour south of Dallas.
Okay.
In the East Texas area. I went there for a year, did that whole thing, and then I came back. Honestly, Stillwater has been a place I've loved to be my entire life. I've never really imagined myself going anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. So your parents, obviously, are they from Stillwater? Born and raised?
From Stillwater. Let's see. My mother was born and raised in Stillwater, and my father was, oh shoot, where was he born? I think it was Bartlesville, but then he moved to Oilton, somewhere in there. He lived in Hominy. I'm a little lost in some of those details.
Northeastern Oklahoma, basically.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I don't actually remember where Oilton is.
Yeah.
It's in between here and there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not too far from... No, it's actually
Well
not
said.
too far from here. It's
Yeah.
literally between here and Bartlesville.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Good to know. I've driven by it. I just don't remember when or where. I mean, anyway, okay.
Very cool.
Yeah, so, but anyway, my family has lived in the area forever. We've never moved anywhere else, to my knowledge, not since I've been brought into the earth, or not since I've been born. How do you say that? That was an awkward statement. I've really lived here my whole life.
You sound so human, Mark.
Yeah, right? I sound like a human. Relax. Anyway, so yeah, I've lived here my whole life, born and raised. I've had a Stillwater address that entire time. I've lived out on the west side of town near Lake Carl Blackwell area.
Okay.
Most of my life. I always viewed as Stillwater as my hometown. I mean, we would
Sure.
go all
Of
the
course.
time, and then when I became an adult, I was like, oh, wait, I'm not actually within city limits. Okay, I guess that's a whoops.
Oh, yeah, but I think, I honestly think Stillwater claims all the people in the surrounding area just because there are so many housing additions and things that are outside the city limits.
Yeah.
Where, the people who live there, they still, live here. They do their working here.
Yeah.
They do their shopping here.
You spend your sales tax money
Your
here.
Yeah.
kids go to school here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think they count. Obviously, they count.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, I literally viewed it as my hometown. Anytime we'd go do anything, it was to Stillwater. So, there you go.
All right.
What was it like growing up out near Lake Carl Blackwell and Lake McMurtry? Did you guys frequent
Well,
the area much?
not really. I just lived out next to my grandpa's ranch, and that was my entire childhood was spent living out there. Out in the sticks, as one of my friends said.
Yeah.
He said, "You don't live in the boonies. You live in the sticks." It's like, okay.
All
Maybe the
right.
sticks are closer to town than the boonies.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. I haven't had that clearly defined to me yet.
Yeah,
So-
I'm not sure which one is further out. Actually,
Yeah, I don't know.
it probably just depends on the person. what they
Perhaps.
think about it.
Yeah.
So, do you have siblings? Did you at least have anyone to run around and fight with?
Yeah. So, let's see. I was born, and then 13 months and 3 days later, my sister was born. And then it was just the two of us for about 12 years. And then my parents decided to have another, and then they had another 4 years after that.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you have 3 siblings.
That's right. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, with a pretty good gap in there.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how old is your youngest sibling now? Then
How old is he?
It's too early for me to do
is-
math.
Yeah, oh shoot, I think he's 14 or 15, one or the other. I always get lost on that.
so still in school, still in public
Oh
school.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, still in school. And then the other one is 17. And then my sister is 28.
Well, all right.
Nice.
Okay. So and I know you're married,
Yep,
and I know you have a dog.
that's right.
Now I know you're married because I've met your wife because she's done my hair.
Okay.
And she's done my daughter's hair.
Very nice.
And I know you have a dog because I saw your photo on
That's
your
right.
campaign site.
Yeah.
So talk about them.
So my wife is Lindsay Trotter. She's a hairstylist here in town. And my dog is Trudy Trotter. And actually, funny little fact, all of our birthdays are within a week.
Oh, wow.
So my wife's birthday is September oh shoot, I better make sure I get this right. She'll hound me if I don't.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like I'm like usually super confident. And now that I'm on the spot, I'm like,
Is it? I mean, I would imagine if your birthdays are all in a week, you just kind of blend it all together in one gigantic celebration.
That's what I was
That's what it
wondering.
is. The Trotter birthday bash.
There
Wow.
you go. That's kind of convenient.
So her
really.
birthday is September 29th. My dog Trudy's birthday is September 30th, and my birthday is October 6th.
Nice.
Okay.
So
very good.
Yeah, there you go. Funny
There you
little.
go.
Yeah, thing.
What's the traditional birthday bash entail?
It is evolving every year. So, a lot of times we'll go do something. I don't know what. We might sit down and eat somewhere here around town. We might. It just kind of depends on the year. I think she's talking about on her 30th birthday, we might go somewhere like way far out. I don't know where. I'm not sure. That's not decided, but that's a consideration. And then I don't know, we just kind of, if you've ever watched Parks and Rec, it's kind of that treat yourself, except trot yourself.
Very good.
I dig it.
Yeah. That's kind of how we view that week. We're like, you know what? Treat yourself.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good week.
Yeah. We relax a little on things. You know, we're like, this is fun. We're celebrating our lives right now. All right.
Very cool. Now, you said you grew up on a ranch, so I'm assuming cattle. What else was going on out on the ranch?
My grandpa, he liked raising cattle. I think it was more of a hobby for him. And he also has always had some horses out there. And then he had dabbled in some other things, but those were the two main deals, really. So yeah.
So are you a horseman?
I can ride. I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but I can.
All right.
Yeah.
If necessary, you can get on a horse and go.
I do enjoy it. I really do. I feel like I'm clipping the mic right now.
No, you're fine.
Okay. I do enjoy it. It is fun. I don't do it enough, and it's a great way to bond, really. But yeah, so there you go.
I went riding horseback for the first time. I used to live in West Virginia, and when you're going on horse trails in West Virginia, it's not like out here where it's just, flat.
Flat, straight, yeah.
And we were following like the tour leader, and I was a kid. I mean, I was a teenager, and there was like a little creek that was probably only like maybe 3 feet like wide.
Oh, yeah.
And probably not very deep. And all the horses, I was on the last horse, and they all just kind of like stepped right through. Yeah. And then my horse got up and then like reared back and was like, here we go, and jumped over. Luckily I stayed on.
That is terrifying.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've had when I've been riding before, and there'll be like a railroad tie or something on the ground or something they see. They kind of do that rear back, and then they just launch. You're like, oh, hang on.
Yeah. It was fun. And I know then when I was done, I was like, oh my gosh. I was on this horse that like jumped and stuff.
It's this giant.
Did you want to do it again?
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I liked it. Now,
yeah.
I don't think I got enough cushion down below for a lot of saddle time.
I would agree that you're not the most cushiony looking fellow.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't got a lot of cushion. But so
I
I don't know if
think it
they make
makes a
like
difference.
cushiony saddles or something. But
Like a
I
nice
do.
gel saddle.
Yeah, I do remember my butt feeling it after.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does make you sore if you don't.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, if we did it a whole lot, then
Yeah.
break it.
My grandpa goes on these long trail rides, like with these groups of people. And I mean, he's told me it's like an 8-hour day of riding. I'm like, what? I'm like, holy smokes, how can you do that?
I mean, I guess that's like
It's like riding a bike, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it really is. Your
yes.
rear end
Yeah.
gets used to it.
a bike saddle. I mean, I did that. I've ridden for 21 hours on a bike
Whoa.
doing 200 miles of gravel.
Yeah.
And so, yes, my sit bones, you'll discover you have sit bones.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's probably the same way even on a horse saddle. You just got, your legs and more touching. But yes, after a while you build up some muscles and some
resistance.
some endurance there.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But yeah, riding a horse for 8 months, I mean, that would be like, ranchers and like actual cowboys back in the day having to,
yeah.
get the cattle up from Texas all the way up to Chicago.
Oh yeah.
That'd been
He enjoys
multiple
it.
days.
But yeah, there's that. Hobbies I have. I hope it's okay. I'm
Yeah,
steering off.
no,
For
we're
sure.
following
So-
you. Actually, I was thinking about asking you about that, but I wasn't sure if that was the thing you wanted to
Well,
expand
then
on.
ask. Then ask.
Well, I'm fascinated with your apiary.
Yeah.
Wait, Michelle, you just used a fancy word.
Yeah.
What's that mean, Mark?
I'm a beekeeper. I have beehives. And I do this with my dad. So actually, when I came back to town, when I was 19, my dad decided to get some beehives, and I found out about it, and I said, "Oh, that's cool." He goes, "Yeah, I just thought I'd want to do this. I've been talking about it for years." And I was like, "Can I help?" He said, "Sure."
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for approximately a decade.
How many, I guess, like how many hives? How many, what do they call those things?
Yeah, hives. It's
Okay.
just a hive. The full structure, it's just a hive, beehive. I have currently 4.
Okay.
Okay.
I've had up to 9. A couple years ago, the winter storm event wiped them out.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, it was a bummer.
Yeah.
We had some good hives in there, and then we had some not so great hives. They all got wiped out.
Oh, all of them.
All of them.
So
Yep.
these are 4 new hives.
These are
then.
4 new hives.
I thought you had 4 left out of the 9 after the storm.
Nope. So I actually had, I don't remember how many, 4 or 5 before the storm, got wiped out. And actually, when we went out and looked at it, and Dad told me, and then later I walked and saw it with him. We went out to see them. We were just kind of investigating what would we see. We opened them all up, and 2 of the weaker hives, there was like, it was really sad, honestly. There were like these piles of just dead bees. It was like a graveyard. It was depressing.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, okay, they did not make it. And we go to the better, stronger hives. No trace. Nothing there. They took everything. They left. They decided,
Wow.
Oh,
we can't handle this. We're leaving. I assume.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my assumption. I don't know
Interesting.
that. I don't have trackers on them or anything, but that's my assumption. I could be wrong,
The
but
queen. So in a hive, is there only one queen?
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the queen was just like, "Hey, folks, we gotta move along."
Well, probably the whole hive decided together, more than
Okay.
likely. That's my understanding of how it works. That's kind of the theory anyways. They kind of all sort of start deciding together, oh, hey, this isn't working. I think we need to find a new location now. Let's go. And then the scout bees will all go out. They start looking for a place to go. Eventually they'll find one. They come back, relay that information to the hive. And then the queen and then a bunch of bees go with her. Well, at least in this case, they probably all left. I mean, there was no, to my knowledge, from what I recall, there weren't any dead bees left. At least not many. And then they all will congregate at that new location, and they follow the queen bee's pheromones. And that's kind of how they relocate.
That's interesting to have, like, in the same location, one group that decides to go and one group that decides to stay.
Yeah.
Right.
That is really interesting.
I know. I'm getting this picture. I mean, it's like this movie or this tragedy. I mean, one just went like full Roanoke, right?
Yeah.
And just, disappeared without a trace.
Yeah.
And then, I just have this picture of these poor worker bees like frantically flapping their wings or something to try to generate heat to keep the queen alive or something.
Well, what they do in the winter, if I'm not mistaken, is they clump up at the top and they surround the queen. And they all group up, and they try to, I don't remember what the temperature is they have to maintain. I don't remember, but they all kind of rotate in and out on each other and just maintain a consistent core temperature.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think they also do that around frames of capped brood, their winter brood, so that they still have larvae ready to go when it hits spring.
Yeah.
And the freezes end and all that. They'll start coming out of the hive about roughly 50 degrees. And so once that starts happening consistently, they can start working again.
Mm-hmm.
So those bees probably thought, well, we're just going to stay put and try and hold our own, and well, that didn't work out.
Bees are fascinating.
Yeah, and then you can, obviously you guys are harvesting the honey?
Yeah.
Yep.
We weren't able to this year because they were all first-year bees.
Okay.
And in fact, we lost several to starving. As far as we can tell.
Can you supplement?
Yes, and we didn't as much as we should have. We are now 10 years after we've been doing it. We're like, we should start feeding our bees. So, yeah.
So we're about ready to come up on the anniversary of our big deep freeze last year.
Yes.
Did you have these bees after that or before that? Did they survive?
Before the deep freeze.
So they survived
The initial October, November
that
storm.
freeze. Okay.
They survived that one. They always do.
Yeah.
And then the deep, negative, 15?
February took them
Yeah.
out. The
Holy
sub-zero.
cow. And I mean,
Yeah.
I assume they found somewhere because those were good bees. That hive, the best hive we'd had all 10 years. They were always good honey producers. In fact, we were always robbing them to feed the other hives. We've since learned it's actually better to cut your losses.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
There's
you mean
a lot
if
of
hive's
theories
not
to that.
making it?
If they're not making it, there's different ways you can approach it and try and manage them. Now, we're starting this whole feeding thing. We always tried to not do that because we thought if you have to feed them, they're not, well, I don't know.
They're not kind of fending for themselves.
They're not doing what they are literally supposed to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you ever see the Seinfeld movie Bees?
I have not.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the response I got the last time someone asked me that.
That movie is like my biggest education on bees.
Yeah.
But the premise is, the Seinfeld voiced bee can talk and communicate with a human, and then basically takes it all the way up to a court that says, hey, humans are now no longer allowed to take the bee's honey.
Yeah. I my first impulse is to try to do a Jerry Seinfeld impression.
Oh, no.
I know. It's just like, what is up with these humans?
Yeah.
taking our
that's not
honey?
bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually not bad.
What's
No.
the deal with
What's
that?
the deal
No,
with the
that-
humans
that-
taking our honey?
Exactly.
That is the movie.
So good.
But
I've
if,
never
if
seen it
you,
either.
If you ever find it on some stream, you should
I need
watch
to watch
it.
that now.
But it basically, not to
I'm
spoil
going to
it,
get emails about it now.
but the bees basically are like, we have all this honey now, and so they stop going out and pollinating. They stop. They basically live the luxury lifestyle of we can just survive off our own, and we don't need to produce anymore.
Yeah.
And then they stop pollinating flowers, and then in a very short time, basically the whole planet is like turning gray.
Oh, good. That's
Well,
great.
or at least this. I don't know if this is supposed to be based of like Central Park in New York or something like that.
Okay.
But and then the lady that he talks to, she's a florist, and she's like, man, they all fought for like the bees being free,
Yeah.
and not having the little plastic honey bear bottles, and that whole industry and all this stuff, and then and so then the bees have to how they turn out like saving a plane full of humans.
Fascinating.
Wow.
I have to see
and the
this.
humans, and then and then they decide to basically work out a deal to start pollinating and getting things back in order. But the premise is, if we don't have pollinators, we don't have food.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that. Is
Sure.
that like part of your thought process with this? And are you more in tune with what's going on with pollinators in general? Are you part of like an organization that is talking about the fallout from this? Because I've heard that Payne County lost a vast majority of its bees anyway, but that pollinators were hit really, really hard
During the freeze?
Yes.
Oh, well, that would make sense. I'm actually not part of a group. I wouldn't be opposed to it. It just, I don't know, it never really hit my radar.
More of a hobby thing rather than like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
need to save the bees.
It's funny because like it's just the strangest thing. I care about them, you know.
Yeah.
Like I don't want you to die. I want you to do well, and I'll just take a little bit, whatever I can, without hurting you, you know. And you don't rob the bees that don't have enough. They can't. Well, they'll die. So
Yeah.
Right.
And like I said, I had one hive that I'd be taking from to try and supplement the ones that never could seem to get off on a good start. And their queens wouldn't lay as many larvae and eggs, or their workers wouldn't maybe be as productive for, I don't know why,
Right.
various reasons. Who knows? I'm not sure why, but there was always one hive that was always real strong. It was like you couldn't hurt them. You could do almost anything. They would just pull through. They were epic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hive that picked up and left when the winter storm came. We're like, well, they were smart.
Dang.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, it's so depressing. We almost quit.
Oh.
We were like, that was it knocked the wind out of us. We're just like, oh.
So how do you
no.
restart? Do you order new queens?
That's what we did.
Okay.
We ordered hives out of Arizona.
Was
Okay.
there a shortage after that storm,
I don't-
killing so many bees?
I don't. Maybe around here. I don't know.
Okay.
It would make sense around
Yeah.
here. You had mentioned in Payne County you'd heard, and that would make sense.
Well,
locally.
through the entire Midwest, through the
Yeah.
entire central part of the U.S.
Yeah.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got them from a company in Arizona.
Okay.
We bought them online, and they brought them in a truck and a trailer. It was a really interesting thing.
Oh, because it's like the whole hive. It's not just
They
yeah.
bring you a queen who's in a cage.
Okay.
With they say what is it, 2 to 3 pounds of bees.
I guess because I was going to ask, it's like, how many bees per hive? But I guess
It depends.
yeah.
When you get them like that, I think, if I remember right, and this isn't information I ever think about,
Sure.
but I think it was 20-ish thousand bees
Wow. Okay.
in
wow.
these little boxes about, I don't know, 1.5 by a foot tall and maybe half a foot wide. I don't know.
Large shoe boxes.
Yeah, basically the size of a shoebox, and they
Yeah.
had this aluminum canister in the middle where they could drink sugar water from. And the instructions were, so we get there. We actually picked them up in OKC. So this company was literally driving state to state, New Mexico, Oklahoma, probably Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas. They're just making their rounds, and they shot us an email and said, "This is the time frame we'll be there. If you don't arrive, you don't get bees."
Oh, wow.
And we're like, okay. So we
All
made
right.
sure we were there. We found it. And then a bunch of people were lining up to get their bees. We stood in line, waited next to this trailer with bees flying around. Some of them found their way out of their cages, and they're just kind of flying around trying to get to their hive. And we get in line. The guy walks up to us. He goes, "All right, what was your name?" And Trotter. Okay, let's see. 5. What were the bee genetics? They were New World Cordovans, and
these would all be just classified as honeybees, right?
that's right. Yeah. All these honeybees are different breeds of bees. New World Cordovan and some kind of Italian bee. And this is all based on I think their colors. That's what I've read. Their colors will tell you what breed of bee they are.
Okay.
And so like the Italians are more of like a yellowy color. They kind of have that more traditional bee look.
Okay.
And then like the New World Cordovans might be like a more faded, almost an off-white color. And then they have different traits they have. But anyways, they give you the proper number of boxes. You walk to the back of the trailer, and they said, give it a good shake so you can make sure the queen is in the top. They have exoskeletons. I was like, is that okay? They're like, yeah, that's fine. Like, you're not going to hurt them. Just one good pop on the ground. So I'm like, okay. So I grabbed the box. I knocked it on the ground, and they all fall to the ground. They sound ticked off. And you can see where that queen is because they all congregate around her. So they were like, you got to make sure she's alive. You're checking to make sure she survived the trip, and if she didn't, you can get a replacement. And so we're like, okay, great. So every one of our queens survived, and so we checked every one of our boxes, all 9 of them, and we started loading them into Dad's truck in the cab, and one of my little brothers came with us. And so we had to put them in the back there, and some of these bees would be on the outside of the box. And so my little brother's sitting next to them. We said, okay, we're going to throw a blanket over that. Don't agitate them. And the guy who sold them to us, he goes, man, don't let me see you in the news tonight if you get in a wreck. I was like, oh, yeah, that would be bad news.
That's my next question is, how many times have you been stung?
I've been wondering
I have
that
no
too.
idea. Many times. One time in particular, about 8 or 9 years ago, we had one of our hives swarming, and all that means is they've decided they've outgrown their space, and so about 60% of them with the queen go and leave, and they leave 40% of them with new upcoming queens waiting to be born. So usually when they swarm and leave the hive, they're in a very close vicinity. So they move out like up to a branch, and you see this like ball and clump of bees around it, and the queen is in the middle of that somewhere every time. And one time it congregated on this very large oak tree, very high up, and at the time my dad had a Jeep, so the only way we could get to it was pull the Jeep up, park it, get on top of the Jeep, put a step ladder on the very top. yeah, dicey.
This sounds super safe, Mark.
Yeah, totally. I would never ask anyone else to do it, but
Nobody got hurt?
I got stung a lot.
Okay, but nobody fell off the ladder.
I went through anaphylactic shock. It was a good time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you fall?
No.
So you're not wearing like the fancy outfits?
So that was the last time I did that.
Okay.
Yeah. So lesson learned. Basically, so here's the deal. When bees swarm, that is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it. Like peaceful, non-confronting. I can't think of the word.
Oh, they're not in like
docile.
Offense.
That's
docile.
where they are the most docile or docile, whatever.
Really?
When they're in swarm mode. Like you can walk right up to the swarm, stick your face right up to it, and they will totally ignore you.
Is it just because they have other things on their mind?
I think so.
Their hive mind?
Yeah, I guess. They're just not, they don't care until you start agitating them.
Yeah.
And so I literally, I could have pressed on it with my hand, I think, and nothing would have came of it. They might have crawled on it.
Yeah.
And I've done that before. I stuck my hand in a bucket of honey, and I thought, let's see. And so I stuck them next to a bunch of them. They all crawled on my arm, started eating the honey off. I was like, oh, that's a rush.
That would be kind of neat.
And they don't care. When they're harvesting, they don't care. When they're foraging, looking for things, like I've been sitting on their porch before at their house, and I was eating an apple in the morning, and all of a sudden I had a honeybee. She came up, landed on the apple, and started licking up the nectar off the spots I'd bitten into. And so I just kind of bit around other places, let her do her thing. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. She kind of crawled around my fingers. She doesn't care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You don't exist to her.
Yeah.
Unless you squeeze her or something, But I was very careful. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then eventually she just flew off. Or I might like kind of nudge her and be like, all right, you can go now. I'm going inside. I don't want to bring you in, I'll kind of nudge her off or set her somewhere, and she'll do her thing,
So what made them decide to not be docile?
Okay, so yeah, this is a good story. Basically, yeah, it's pretty funny. So, lesson learned. Get on top of the truck with a step ladder, and what you do is you bring a box up or some kind of a container you want to catch the queen in. If you get the queen, all the bees go to her, period. They will follow her pheromones. It might take a while, but they'll do it. So we get to the branch, and this is one of the first times we had done this, I think. But basically, I'm holding this box over my head, and Dad has a broom, and I know, right? Yeah.
I'm picturing this.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I hold this box up over my head. Amazing. I would never ask anyone else to do this, period.
Your mother would have been so angry.
Oh, I
if
think
could have
she
seen
was.
that.
I think she wanted to hurt me.
Yeah.
Like, in a loving, like, never do that again way. But the bees already let me know. So anyway, and actually the shocking thing is, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Dad starts sweeping them onto me because we're like, they're docile, and we didn't like wearing the suits anyways. that they're hot. They're really hot. Well, back then. They've actually got some nicely vented ones now. But they're hot. They're hot to where it's probably July, or it was May. It was May that year.
Okay.
And that's when they like to swarm usually. So I'm holding it up kind of in front of me, and it's got a bottom on it and all that. Well, he starts sweeping them into it real fast, and a bunch of them fall onto me.
Oh, no.
And they fall on it. Yeah, right? Yeah, a bunch of them fall onto me, and I freeze. And he goes, okay. Okay, we kind of pause, like, okay, they don't care. Keep sweeping more. Or, no, they didn't follow me the first time. Once they fell on us, that's when we froze. And they're buzzing around your head, around my face and my neck. And if one of them sting you, it releases a pheromone, triggering the rest to start stinging you. They're on my neck. My arms are up there around my armpits. I mean, they're all in the wrong places. Mm-hmm. And suddenly I'm like, I see the wisdom of always wearing a veil with bees. Yes, I may have made that realization a little too late. So I'm holding this, and I freeze, and Dad and I are looking face to face. And then all of a sudden I hear him goes, one stung me. I go now. He goes, another stung me. I'm like, get off right now. And he jumps off the truck or Jeep, runs to the house, and then they all start flying. It's funny. They actually start flying off of you when you leave the queen, and that's it, and they go right back to the clump. Well, I'm standing here with this box over my head, angry female bees on top of me. Females are the ones with the stingers.
Okay.
They're buzzing. They sound so mad. And I literally am praying like, oh, Jesus, please protect me.
Yeah.
I was praying hard.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And not a single one stung me, actually, amazingly. So I slowly, without squeezing the ones under my armpit, I slowly set the box down onto the Jeep. Set it down, trying not to squash any of them because I still don't want them to die, and then I kind of hold my arms out to the side like this barrel of monkeys thing, hop off to the front of the Jeep, hop off to the ground very carefully, and then run with my arms out to the side about 100 feet away or 100 yards away to the house. And by the time I got there, every bee had flown off me back to that clump and left me alone. I hadn't been stung yet. I'm like, oh, cool. They really are docile. Great. So I kept not wearing the suit. I threw a veil on at this point. I was like, okay, I'm not playing that game.
Yeah.
Well, then we started collecting them throughout the day. And I was wearing these mechanics gloves. I thought it would work. They actually can sting through that. And they got me good. I probably got 30 bee stings in my right hand and another 30 everywhere else on my body. My hand swelled up and looked like Michelin Man hand.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I was stuck in like this cupped position with my hand. If you hold it up and kind of cup it, it was like stuck in that position. So really, that was fun. Go to bed that night, had to get up at one point, and so I crawl out of bed, get a drink of water, and I'm like freezing. I'm like shivering cold. I'm shaking violently. I can't hardly control myself. And I'm like, oh, something's wrong. I'm sick or something. And I got up, got a drink, went back to bed, laid down, woke up early that morning for church. And I actually had to play keys. Well, I lucked out. It happened to be a day where I didn't have to play any intense piano parts. I was basically clubbing the piano with my worthless right hand.
Everybody's getting power chords.
Yeah, baby. That's right. Yeah. My hand was stuck in this position. And so I was in so much pain. My whole body ached and hurt. I was having trouble focusing. And I was like, okay. So I managed to get through the first service, and at the second service, right about 30 minutes before I went to the worship pastor, I said, hey, man, and I was hiding my hand. I don't like to draw. It's the funniest thing. I don't like drawing attention to myself.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll get to that later, but I actually kept hiding my hand in my pocket so nobody would feel like they needed to ask me about it. I didn't care if they knew. I just didn't. I don't know. I just was like, nah, whatever. I don't want people to worry. I don't know. I guess was my thought. I'm not really sure, but I had it in my pocket. And I'm asking this worship pastor, hey, man, I don't feel well. I think I need to go home. He goes, really? Why? Like, what's up? And I pull my hand out of my pocket and show him. He goes, oh, my gosh. What happened? I go, oh, I got probably 30 bee stings. He's like, you could have said one, and I would have said go. So I left, went home, took like 4 ibuprofen.
Benadryl?
And I think I took a couple allergy pills.
Yeah, Benadryl is usually what
or
they
Benadryl.
have
I'm not
you take.
sure which I took. It was either Benadryl or Zyrtec.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And so I laid on the couch. As it turns out, my dad also had anaphylactic shock that night before. We didn't know this yet. We just both were laying on the couch looking miserable.
Yeah.
Just like, I can't do this.
Wow.
So, anyway, my grandma came over, and I wasn't going to go to the doctor. I was like, they're going to tell me there's nothing we can do for you. I was like, that's a fact. I survived. I'm not allergic.
Yeah.
She goes, you need to go to the doctor. And I was like, oh, come on, Grandma. She's like, no, you need to go. I'm not leaving till you tell me you will. I'm like, okay, I'll go. So I went, and the doctor, of course, said what I expected. She goes, well, there's not much we can do for you. She said, oh, you went through anaphylactic shock. You could have had like total organ failure and died. I'm like, oh, well, glad that didn't happen. You know?
Right.
And she said, well, we got this big shot. She didn't say that. It was a big shot. She's like, well, we can give you a steroid shot, help the swelling go down faster. I'm like, oh, okay. So there is something you can do. Great, you know?
Yeah.
She said, well, you might want to keep a watch. If you ever get stung again, your body might overreact.
Oh.
I thought, oh, that's good to know. And so she wrote me a prescription for, what do you call the...
EpiPen.
That's it, EpiPen.
So now you are allergic.
Nope, I'm not.
No?
Nope. No allergies. I've gotten sting many times since. Not nearly as bad. That was the big one. I always wear full suit, full gloves, all that. Every time I'm going to be near the bees, I'll suit up.
So it was the volume of venom.
That's right, and that's why my
amount.
body overreacted to it. Anybody's allergic to anything in the right quantity, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You know.
Well, yeah. Hopefully, if your immune system's working,
Yes.
and then like, hey, we need to fight this.
Yeah, exactly. That when it becomes an issue is if it overreacts, you know, and your body decides, oh, we're always going to freak out every time this happens. You know, that's a bad thing.
So that didn't happen to you.
That did
though.
not happen to me. Thank
Good
goodness.
deal.
So I got the shot. She's like, all right, and they gave me the shot. It was like actually. I was like, wow, this was worse than the bee stings. The shot hurt worse. It was like huge. But anyway, gave me the shot, and I went home, and the swelling slowly started going down. I started regaining use of my hand. What a rush.
Wow.
Imagine.
That is, and now you wear the suit.
Always.
Always.
Well, I take the if it's necessary. I still go out. I can stand 5 feet away from a hive, or maybe like more like 10. They're not going to bother me.
Okay.
As long as you're not loud and noisy and banging things or whatever, they won't bother you.
That something is to learn from other people's experience. I was like, man, we should get some bees. I think we've seen in the last 2 years maybe like one bee in our neighborhood,
right
up north, just near Boomer Lake. Like we're right by what's the lake near the airport? I'm spacing out again. Sanborn. Like it's a very like bunch of nature. We got squirrels. I just like had
is
to
that
clear.
the one with like the little dock and it's a little pond thing you can walk around?
Yeah,
it's
you
nice.
can go kayaking. It's actually
Okay.
it's not well maintained, but
Right. I kinda
it's
like
very natural, I guess you could
Right.
say.
Yeah,
And
It's where the Audubon Society had their little cabin out there, right?
yes.
There's a couple
They do their day
structures.
camp.
Yeah,
I think.
but it's no longer there. There's
Yeah.
still a kids like summer like camp where they go
Okay.
find bugs and identify animals and plants and
Right.
stuff. It's pretty cool. So we're not like in the middle of town or anything like that.
Right.
But and of course we don't really have a whole lot of flowers or
Mm-hmm.
anything to attract them. But now I'm gonna learn from your experience. If for some reason we ever get backyard bees, which I don't even know if that's allowed.
I
In
think
city
it is.
limits. I don't know.
I think there was a time when it wasn't, and then I think they rescinded that. I don't know what the rules are around that. I could be wrong.
But get the veil.
Yeah.
Wear the suits.
Yeah. If you're going to mess with them and agitate them, I mean, you can weigh out your own risks there, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would encourage you to wear a suit.
There we go.
It
There
can
you go.
At least avail because they actually. Fun fact: you do not want to wear black clothing or dark clothing because they think that's your pupil,
Oh.
and they
Of
want to
your
sting
eye.
you blind.
Oh, they want to go
Yep.
for the soft
They
parts.
go right for where it's
Oh.
going to count.
So that's why the suits are white.
That's right.
Interesting.
It doesn't agitate them. It doesn't mean anything to them. They're just like, oh, it's white. But if they see black, they think it's a giant. Well, what I've learned or what is alleged is they think it's a giant pupil. They think it's your eye.
Oh, wow.
And they want to sting you blind. The fewer bees they can use to deal with the intrusion,
Sure.
the better. You know, That's efficient. So that's why if you're gonna visit your bees, it's ill-advised to wear dark clothing.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Or
I would
colored
imagine that's the
clothing.
same with like, the standard like a bear going after something. Like a bear's going to have dark pupils and
Yeah,
and any other predators, I guess.
Yeah, every creature at least any creature that a bee would have to deal with would have the dark pupils, and
Yeah.
that's the deal, you know.
All right.
Yeah.
Another safety tip.
Yeah, don't look like a bear when you go around your hive. we know this now too.
Yeah.
Look
Don't
as
act
little like a bear as possible.
Yeah. Bees don't like Winnie the Pooh.
What? But he loves their honey.
That's right. I do too.
So speaking
Yeah.
of honey, do you have like a brand? Do you sell it?
No, not yet. I've never produced enough to. We've always just made enough to have in the home. I think that'd be fun. I'd never really considered that option until maybe the past year. So it's an interest, but we'll just see how well as we keep learning. I think, and we get better, the bees will slowly start multiplying, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Really.
Now, I've heard
Very
one
cool.
one more question.
Sure.
I think we probably about exhausted the bee
bees.
topic.
Yeah,
But
it feels
I've
like.
heard local honey helps with allergies.
Yeah. So wherever a beehive is, anybody within a 50-mile radius, I think, and any beekeepers listening to this may correct me, of course, but I think the number is a 50-mile radius around that hive, you can get allergy resistance benefits from the pollen.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I have something.
Shoot.
All right. I saw a bottle of what claimed to be organic honey
Sure.
the other day, and I thought, how do they control where these bees go? Because I'm assuming that organic honey has to come from the pollen of organically produced flowers. And how do you even know if the bees are ranging over miles and miles and miles and miles? I guess my whole thing is I'm saying, personal opinion, I question the validity of that. I question how you confirm that.
Yeah, I do too.
I'm glad it's
So-
not just me.
So you can guess based on the color of the honey, roughly what kind of pollen and flowers they've visited,
Oh, cool.
what they've collected. You can guess. I'm not well read on those distinctions. Usually our honey is a much darker, more molassesy and rich kind of a flavor. I'm biased. It's my favorite I've ever had.
Yeah.
Just a rich, just deep. Oh, I love it. Now I kind of want to go home and eat some. So, like when they say organic, that's an interesting thing to me. Technically, for it to legally be called honey, it has to come from a beehive and it cannot be purified anyways.
Okay.
The only purification it can legally go through in order to be still called honey
Like
is straining.
USDA grade, whatever.
Sure,
Yeah.
I guess. I'm not well read on that. I just
Yeah.
know what beekeepers have told me.
Okay.
And maybe a little bit of reading, light reading. You know, it's still a hobby.
Yeah.
But you can strain it, right? You strain it through a big filter to get all whatever you may pick up. You know, you're getting all the wax off or whatever. And then you run it through a very fine strainer. And then it runs through that, and whatever's left is pollen and things like that. And the pollen's left. So, did you have further questions about that? This whole
No.
organic thing, it seems like a marketing thing to me.
Yes.
I mean,
Seems very marketing
It can
speak.
be. It can be.
It could be true.
Yeah, I know. I think with honey, it's like what you put it on a little bee leash, and you
Yeah.
like how do you would do this? It doesn't
Right.
seem practical.
It's a best guess. So you
Yeah.
kind of look at your field and you say, "Oh, there's a lot of clovers here."
right.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably clover honey.
Exactly.
And so that's really, and they all acknowledge that. They're like, that's my best guess. I
Yeah.
put it in a clover field, or I put it in the almond groves of California, or whatever it is they did.
Right.
And then around here, I'm sure that a lot of our honey is darker because of goldenrod.
Okay.
And among other things, of course. But it's just a best guess.
Okay.
I don't know that I would call my honey anything in particular, just because to me it seems a little disingenuous. I don't know. I mean, but not to slam people do. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Eyes wide
but
open,
local
right?
honey.
Yeah.
Local honey,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, local honey. Well, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of value there.
For sure.
You get an allergy benefit, particularly in Oklahoma.
Right.
And honey, let's see, I think honey is antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal.
That's what they say.
It's also
that is what they say.
one of just a handful of things on earth that will never perish.
As long as the bees are there to make it.
That's right.
No,
So-
actually, as long
Oh.
as you don't mix water.
Oh,
with
you
it.
mean it won't go bad?
It won't
okay.
spoil. Let me
Okay.
say that. It will never
Yeah.
spoil, period.
So 100 years from now, if you didn't mix water with it, it would still be good. It would still be usable.
Yeah, it probably
It
still
might
tastes good.
crystallize, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dehydrate, I think, is all that really is occurring there. It loses some of the moisture, but it's still good.
Wow. Okay.
You still get the allergy benefits.
Okay.
Well,
Uh-huh.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know if the allergy benefits last that long. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
That's a good
Have to
question.
go find some 100-year-old honey.
Right? I know.
Good luck, yeah.
There's probably some in a tomb in
Yeah.
Egypt somewhere. That,
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, I read an article like several years ago. Something like that happened. They found honey that was allegedly thousands of years old, and they tried it, and they were like, "Yep, still good, not spoiled."
Wow.
I was like, that blows my mind.
That is insane.
That is very cool.
Well, but the cool thing about that is, I mean, when you buy locally produced honey, though, you are encouraging people to have pollinators in your locality.
Yeah,
And all the agricultural producers
Yeah.
probably really appreciate that too.
yeah.
So
I would imagine.
that's an important thing. So was beekeeping the thing that you really wanted to do a deep dive on, or is this
where we
just like a
landed.
side
I didn't mean to. It was a sidetrack.
Okay,
You asked me some
cool.
questions. I was
No.
like, yeah, sure, let's talk about it.
No, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It really is.
In part 2, we hear about Marc's career as a lighting designer and his interest in understanding how people relate to each other. Thanks again to Work It for sponsoring this series. For more information about Studio Stillwater and how you can help support our mission as a listener or sponsor, go to studiostillwater.net. There you can sign up for emails, get a free sticker, or send us a message. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.